Hi, everybody. Welcome to Capital to the Coast BNI. My name is Mike Manning. Each week, we bring you a local small business success story from one of our 37 chapters that stretch from the Raleigh Durham area we call the Triangle all the way to parts of eastern North Carolina and the coast. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. And our goal each week is to help our fellow members going off of the BNI line of givers gain. And our local small business success story this week is Tom Hessler. Tom is the founder and CEO of Natural Restoration. He is part of RDO5 Triangle Business Builders. They meet Thursday mornings at 8:15 at the Triangle Shooting Academy up near Briar Creek. So if you're ever in the area, Thursday morning, you want to meet a room of very good professionals and some very entertaining people because, hey, for an hour and a half, we want to entertain and we want to pass some money. So Tom's chapter does that. Tom, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. We're doing great. Thank you. And you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad you're here. So Tom is one of those people, and we're going to get into this a little bit. He doesn't fit in a lot of rooms because he's a very talented engineer who loves people. And I'm not knocking engineers; they're good people, but they're generally not people. And Tom is, and that's one of the reasons why natural restoration has been so successful. So, Tom, there's got to be somebody chatting in your family, or that was the only way to survive in your family was to speak up for yourself, right?
That's right. That's right.
All right. So Tom's main focus at natural restoration is it's a big help to a lot of people. It's mold, moisture, air quality, duct cleaning, crawl space services. And Tom, we there are a lot of things homeowners and residents don't really think about. We don't think about our attic. We don't think about our crawl space. We really don't think about the air in our house. But you have plenty of stories to share with people about what you find and what kind of damage that could do to people.
Yes. In fact, we work with doctors that are treating patients for mold sickness. So that's one of the ways that we're helping the community. And a lot of times people don't think about necessarily their air ducts or what's going on in the crawl space because it's not visible and it's not something that's exciting like painting your house a different color. But you actually see these people that are sick and are suffering, even people that have abandoned their house. And we've gone in and located the problem, eradicated it without using chemicals, and they can get back in their house. Yeah, it's a very rewarding and often overlooked area of of your house or business.
Yeah, and the more I've gotten to know you and your business, I never really thought about that either till you and I started talking and I was learning more about it. Air quality, we may cough at home, we may sneeze at home, and we probably connect that to nothing other than, oh, yeah, I sneeze a lot.
Yep, that's right. Um, and yeah, it can manifest itself, right? Air quality issues in the crawl space. And the reason why is, some people say, well, it's my crawl space, it's not my living space. Why do I care what's going on down there, right? For where I live. Well, what happens is the stack effect, which does happen year round. What happens is you'll see the sun is going to heat up your roof line, and that's gonna create hot air in the attic, and it's going to pull makeup air as heat rises. So it's going to pull that makeup air from your living space, and that's going to pull makeup air through any cracks in your flooring into your from your crawl space. So what's it pulling in? So it's going to pull in mold spores, going to pull in VOCs, and what could be really bad is the mycotoxins. So there are molds that are producing toxins, and these are right subspore small. So they can fit through very small cracks. So if you do have mold in your crawl space, then the mycotoxins can come up in, even if you're not getting the spores into your living space. And that's where a problem is. Um, and the other thing is, right, is the air ducts themselves. People don't often think about how they run their HVAC. They get it serviced, but sometimes they have the settings wrong. We can go into that later if you wanted. but they'll also create humidity in their air ducts. And then that humidity, right, can drive mold growth or a biofilm. Yeah, and it's in the duct, so it's sight unseen, and that you start feeling bad, and then it needs to be taken care of.
Yeah, we never think of the HVAC unit. We're all guilty. Hey, it's working. The house is cool, and we give it no thought. The air ducts, most people forget they're even in a house. But let's start with the basics. Let's just start with what we can do as tenants or homeowners. First of all, we need to change our air filters how many times a year in the house?
I would do it quarterly, right? And then depending on how old the house is, how if you're in an area where there's a lot of dirt, you've got dogs or kids bringing in a lot of dirt, which is fun. Not the dirt, kids and the dogs are, and so if that's the case, right, then you want to be changing them for quarterly, and you can go to the home store and get a filter that's considered good, right? And now there's the MERV rating is going to basically define what that is and what the filtration rate is. You don't want to go too high, especially on an older system, because if you go too high, it can create a restriction, right? And then you lose some efficiency. You don't want to go too low as well either, because then you know, you're letting in particles that you shouldn't be letting in. So just typically a good rated one. If you've got allergies or sensitivities, then I would look for something in the MERV 11 to 13 range.
Do the are because again, we walk into Home Depot or wherever and we have no clue. We just know the size, 10 by
Correct.
20 by 1 or whatever it is, and we're happy that we get that right, and we leave there with 2 and we change them. But who do we ask? How do we find out what that MERV rating is? Does it say it on the filter?
You'll say it right on the filter.
Okay.
Right. And then right in conjunction with that for your home health and directly contributing to your HVAC, one of the things that people do in the summertime is they set their thermostat to on or fan or recirculate instead of auto. So and
Ooh.
that brings me a lot of business, but we don't want people doing that
Mhm.
because what's happening is if you have your system set up, say it's set for 72 degrees to cool to 72 in the summertime, and you've got your thermostat set for that 72 and it's on auto, which is how it should be set. So once you reach that set point, the thermostat is controlling the air handler. So it's going to shut off the compressor and it's going to shut off the fan. And what the fan is doing, the fan is recirculating the air through the house. So you want them to turn off at the same time. What happens is people don't have it set up correctly and it's set on recirculate or fan. Well, the compressor it kicks off once you reach your 72-degree set point, but then the fan keeps on blowing air over the heat exchanger, which is wet and not extracting moisture anymore. So now you're adding moisture content into your air ducts, and that added moisture content, right, that can cause issues with biological growth, mold. You can see it in the air ducts. You can see it around the vents, or if you've got furniture next to the vents, that can cause issues as well there.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. If we have an HVAC person, whether we're on a maintenance plan or we have just had to call them before, if and when they come out, are there any generic questions we can ask them to learn anything more about how this is working and how to keep bad air out of the house, things like that?
Yes. So yeah, that's a good question because they all HVAC guys aren't created the same, right? We know that. And so the good ones are going to be checking the output of your system. So, meaning, right, you want to know, especially in the summertime, what the relative humidity is because your HVAC system is extracting that moisture out of your house, right? We want to know what it is, right? So they should be measuring the temperature and the relative humidity. And the other thing they should be doing, um, right, is looking through the system, seeing if they see any organic growth. Um, they might see it and neglect to tell you just because they're gonna, drop a tab in the pan or something like that. Um, Another thing to ask them just to make sure that they did it is the condensate drain outline. So drain out needs to be cleaned out because it'll fill out with scum and so forth because it's got a slow trickle of water coming out of it, and so those can get clogged up with spider eggs or just gunk. And if they get blocked up, then you can get a backup into your system, which can cause high moisture content. So that one of the things to ask them is if they clear it out, their condensate drain outline, just to be on the safe side.
And if we, so real quick, I missed a question, follow up question on the air filters. What is MERV? Is that 4 letters? Yep.
Yes, MERV, right?
MERV. Good.
And it's an acronym and a standard, and all that. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. MERV. So when we go to the store, we're buying air filters, look for MERV. And if we're relatively healthy, average age, is there a number we need to stay between? Anything like that?
I would remember that those ones are labeled as good, and that's going to be something less than a MERV 10.
Okay. So good is the right place to start.
Correct.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Good. For crawl spaces, most of us have never been in our crawl spaces in our house. And if we do decide, so somebody watching the show today is like, you know what, I got an older house. You and I are, Tom, you were like a half hour older than 32. So, we're getting up there. Uh, I don't call you. I'd called somebody else because my next door neighbor says, yeah, I got a guy. And they come look at my crawl space. What am I going to learn? What do I need to ask them just to see if I'm okay, if I'm safe?
Yep. So they should be checking several things. Um, One of the things they should be checking is they should be putting probes up into the floor joists and or the subfloor, and you want to be looking at that. So the number there we're looking at is wood moisture content. So wood moisture content, I like that better than relative humidity. You got to remember that relative humidity is called relative because it's relative, right?
Yep.
So relative to the temperature. So your dew point is going to vary with the temperature. So a lot of times you have to convert back to the dew point. It's complicated to understand for people and to explain it to them, and it varies. It can vary by the hour. So what's a more stable measurement is measuring wood moisture content, because you think of the wood floor joist and it's porous, right? Not like a sponge porous, but it's semi-porous. It's not steel. So if it's been humid for, say, the past day, and then the day that we inspect it, it's relatively dry out from a ambient, right, air environment, we would still expect to see, if there's a problem with conditioning in that crawl space, an elevated wood moisture content, because it's a slight best we can do for going back into time. Look at wood moisture content. So it's going to give us a little look back of what the overall condition is. So that's one of the important things that needs to be checked is wood moisture content. Once you get above 17%, that's the number. And there are people in my industry that will come to blows over, is it 16 or is it 17%? So we will conservatively say 17, even though that might open me up for some attacks by my competitors, but I can easily defend myself.
So, all
So,
right. So if we're starting to not feel good and we go to the doctor and we hear whatever we hear, do we is one of the first places to start is someone like you just to come and check the air quality in the house?
yeah, someone like myself to come look, and what we're going to look for is we're going to look for, did you have any leaks that you forgot about? Do we see any staining? Right? I'm going to go through the living space first, and I'm going to use a protometer. I'm going to use an infrared camera, same thing they use on helicopter gunships, right? Where you can see through things. So it gives us an idea of what's happening in the walls. If you've had something going on in the walls, with a hidden moisture that you didn't know about, maybe you had a window casing leak. So we're going to look at those. Also, with a infrared camera, you can look around the toilet. You might have a wax ring leak that you never knew about, right? 'Cause it's not coming up on the surface. You didn't know about it. So all those can cause issues with mold. I'm gonna look inside the air ducts, see if there's buildup of dust, debris, anything that looks like a biofilm buildup. I'm gonna check the crawl space. Like I said, I'm gonna put the pin probes in the crawl space. I'm gonna look for excess moisture. I'm gonna visually inspect for mold down there, right? I would never do a mold sample in a crawl space. It's pretty disingenuous, and that's a whole nother story. But yeah, I'd do a visual check for mold down there. I'd look for signs of moisture down there, whether it's efflorescence or soft floor under the vapor barrier, if there is one. And then, depending on what shows up there, then I would decide with the customer how many air samples to take in a house, right? Because an air sample is the gold standard on mold testing because it tells you the actual air you breathe and what spores are present in that. So it's a very powerful tool, um, but it's also something that you don't want to hard sell. Someone who hasn't seen your house shouldn't say, "Well, we need a minimum of 10 samples inside your house." Not a good thing, right? It should be a thought out, right? There's a reason, a logical reason for how many samples we want to test. That's one of the things that we help advise on is how many samples do we need? And then an air sample is taken. So with taking an air sample, we gained a lot of information. So that would include, right, what molds are present in that air sample, right? What stage of growth they're in, and then those molds. We know some of those molds, right? Have mycotoxin producing. Some of them aren't. Some of those molds you only see in the absence of airflow. So if we had a mold, say Stachybotrys, and we had that show up in a test, our threshold for what we would consider dangerous is going to be much lower than, say, Cladosporium, which is much more
Hmm.
common and not as toxic. And it also comes in on your clothes when you're outside.
So,
So we take this, it's a logical approach to what the upper threshold limit is. And that's based on several things. It's
so
going to
we
be
need a
based,
so we need because you're throwing out a lot of big words for us. We don't know. We just need to know to call you
there you
because you can
go.
get through that because we can't walk through and see mold. I'm sure people have told you that they can, but we really can't. But a lot of the stuff going on. So if somebody is in a situation where they're not feeling good or think something's going on, they just call somebody like you because, again, folks, we talk about this on the show a lot of times. There's sometimes you need to call an expert, and folks like Tom, who know what they're doing with air quality, are your first best call because you need to figure out what's going on in there. And most relatives don't know that, right, Tom, if they're not in your world. So, which we hear that a
No, they
lot. So,
don't.
all right. So, business owner Tom started in 2020 with natural restoration, correct?
Correct.
So how do you go from the engineering world into restoration?
So, you know, what I carried over, like, was process driven, logical problem solving. I think that was the big thing that carried over. Um, what I didn't understand necessarily going into it, what I was most worried about was sales and marketing. I'm an engineer, right? I work with engineers, key opinion leaders, doctors, and so forth out of engineering. And so yeah, so that was the one thing that I was like, had a little trepidation about. But um, but yeah, that came along. Yeah, so I think that applying the logic and the science, especially as it relates to mold, how to deal with it, and what process to use, uh, that all came out of it. Um, I actually we went chemical free after about a year. Um, when I found out that there was great alternatives, and we're pretty deep in the holistic organic world and getting away from any chemical footprint that we can bring into a house is huge. It's huge for the people suffering. So yeah, so basically I went from engineering that was helping people. I was in the health, biomedical realm to now I'm directly helping people not through a device, but through their living space or workspace. So yeah, that's
All right.
So I still have that satisfaction.
Cool. So on day one, who was on the payroll other than you?
On day one,
Yep.
I had one person, and um, yep. So I had one person, and he was him and I were doing the work, actual work of removal of mold, um, and then I hired employee number two as we started to grow, and I couldn't, you know, work 20 hours a day every
Yeah.
day. Uh, so yeah, so yeah, so and now we're let's see, now we're up to I got 10,
Yep.
10 people out in the field doing the remediation and restoring the clean air.
Very nice. Did you the night before you officially opened, did you see today's version of this company on the day before you started?
I didn't. I didn't. Um, Not at all, especially uh the depth of what we can do,
Mm.
right? Uh we really like complicated jobs, hence, I'll work for hospitals and schools and things like that. So that, that's something that came with time, right? As well as the expertise to go after odors, right? That
Yep.
was another that took time to figure out, as well as the whole business development side, right?
And
Which
yep.
BNI was a big part of that, huge part of that.
So who got you into BNI?
Um, I was talking to a friend, and they said, "Hey," she was a had a similar business, and she said, "You should really check out a BNI group." I go, BNI, I know nothing about it. I've been in business for a year, and uh, uh, so yeah, I walked into the group, not knowing anybody in there, and I go, wow, this is really cool. I still remember the guy um, greeted the greeter, right? And so I was made to feel very welcome, and I really liked it that it was seat specific. So, and then it turned into something. This is more than your question, but it turned into something that I didn't expect, right? Right, because it's billed as, look, this is a great way to grow because you're passing referrals to like-minded ethical people, but it what that's hugely beneficial. But what I didn't know that I'd be getting is I have, now I've got resources to run business ideas about, right? To, you know, to have that water cooler talk about, hey, I ran into this. Has anyone else ran into this? So that was something totally unexpected that's very beneficial.
So once you were open a week, a month, 6 months, what how did you kind of start figuring out who your ideal clients were?
I would say that probably that was more in the second year. It took a bit, right? Because I mean, just getting off the ground, you're trying to survive and working all the time, and learning that there's some professional con men out there, and everything else. So um, that yeah, so honing in on, right, our, the, our client is discerning, right, cares about their health, cares about their environment, and it's not always individual, but I work for multiple companies as well. Um, from builders to doctors to property managers to real estate agents doing sales. What they all have in common is they're they're they want to do things right, right? They might not be all on the same holistic page we are, but they still got that benefit of that, even if they're not on that. They get that benefit. Um, so yeah, so somebody who really cares, about their health. We run into people, right, that are trying to check off a box or do something
Yep.
else. Not our type of client.
Yep. So how's your elevator pitch coming along these days? What was the evolution of that like from day one?
So yeah, so we went from saying, hey, these are these are my service lines. I do this, 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 and this, right? That evolved into more of telling a story, right? A story with, with a call to action. So having a story really helps because, they're not, people don't necessarily remember, oh, he does mold, water, odor, air, right? But hey, I tell a story about, look, we just helped somebody that was in a lease to purchase agreement for a almost $2 million house. One of their kids got sick. Hey, what did we do? We found the mold that was making them sick, and we correlated it to the blood sample that they took out of their kid for the toxins. All right, that's how we can help you. So, yeah, so those stories, they stick with you. So I had some great advice on storytelling, um, from a particular BNI guy.
Good. Glad to hear that. And you have one of those seats in BNI, and I can say this because I used to have the pest control seat. And you have one of those seats that's just not sexy, but it's so needed with health that once you, but, and I'm glad you explained your ideal client the way you did. Somebody basically who cares about air quality, stuff like that. So that helps with the elevator pitch. But man, it takes a little bit to get there with some seats in BNI, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. It took, I would say, 6 months
Mm.
till I received any type of referral. Right? I figured I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to keep doing what I do, um, and getting other people because I had certainly had contacts of people that needed help from ethical people. Um, so yeah, so I just kept pushing down that route. But yeah, I think you hit on it. I mean, we got some people that are, they're, you know, you, you talk about, the attorneys that are dealing with some very interesting divorces or whatnot, and then you've got your people that are, man, they do beautiful painting and home decorating. Um, yeah, we certainly can't compete on that side.
No, believe me, I felt that pain too. It's like, all right, what do I touch? Like, how am I going to get my point across? It takes a little bit, but I'm glad you realized that. Uh, the first couple of months you were open, even probably the first half year you were open, what kind of marketing things did you do to let people know, hey, natural restoration is open for business?
So yeah, so pretty much was, we had a decent website, so what we could pull in from there. But I've always been a a relationship type of person. So we've always pursued relationships, and whether it's, with directly with a client that we're going to sell to, or even somebody in my industry who, hey, they might need help sometime, and they're a competitor, but they're what I would call a friendly competitor who's not a blockhead and gets it, cooperation. So yeah, so we've always gone after the relationships, and pretty much we're still going after the relationships, albeit a little differently. Um, but yeah, and more effectively. So yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much relationship driven.
yeah, and in the air quality and the mold world, you generally don't get called out today or tomorrow. Sometimes the relationships you're building with medical offices and property management companies, that's an ongoing relationship. They may not call you for a month or two, and as a business owner, you have to be prepared for that, correct?
Correct. So a lot of times, right, there's longer term jobs where we book out, right?
Mm,
So and typically we'll be booking out. It might be multiple weeks. Um, However, there we have to triage the job, and then what I do is I leave space in my calendar. That was one of the things, that was a learning, is that, right? It's almost like there's some people that can go to the emergency room, and some people can wait for their general practitioner. They need to go to the emergency room because they can't live in their house and they need to get their house fixed. That's why I keep open calendar days. So every week, right, we have some open time, and I can get that person in who's sick, or that property manager who doesn't want to get sued because, hey, they just found something and it needs to be taken care of now. So we'll do that, right? As well as work weekends and after hours. We do schools. So one of the things there is it's a 3 to 11.
mm.
Um, Yeah. So that's yeah, and yeah, so it's important to have that time available for them.
Good. That's good planning. I like that. Natural Restoration is a family-owned business. You and your
Correct.
wife Nicole started it. One of my favorite questions to ask my married guests are, how did you and Nicole meet, and do you both tell the story the same way?
Oh, um, we met uh so almost 30 years ago. And so yep, so we're both sports people in that we participate and not watch. And so we met playing volleyball. Um and I was it's a long story. I'll give you the abridged version.
Thank you.
Um turns out that yeah, so I was the first person there and she was the second. And um we were something, it was obvious something was there. And she went on vacation though, and she was gone for multiple weeks. And when she did show back up, um, it turns out I was asking her out in front of the guy that she was dating. Um, so so she didn't want to start anything until that was over. And that was, I think, Friday night. So Saturday she called me. She'd ended it, and at that point, um, yeah, it was. We went out that day, and we were engaged within 6 months, and married in a year, and have played hundreds of volleyball games together.
Very nice. So where was the official first date?
Oh, it was at Newport Beach, California, in this little Italian restaurant. Yeah, we had lunch. Fantastic. I was now you gotta remember, right? North Carolina, I mean, Southern California, crowded, hard, a lot of parallel parking. And I had worked as a valet parker. And what I do, I drove the car up onto the curb. I was so nervous.
Oh, my
Happens
but
to the best of us.
but that didn't bother her too much, right?
Not too much.
I
Not too
mean, come
much.
on, she was with you. What's gonna bother her, right?
That's right.
And how long after that date did you realize, "Oh, this could go somewhere"?
Oh, it was a couple weeks.
Okay, good for you
Yep.
guys.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
and you have 3 kids, right?
Correct.
Okay, 1 is definitely into business. How about the other 2?
So one's in law school, and the other is entrepreneurially mindset as well. Um, so he's got a you know n- booming lawn care business. He
Mhm.
probably started when he was about 13. Yeah.
Yeah.
First thing he bought, he saved enough money to buy a commercial walk behind.
Dang.
So yeah, so yeah,
Right.
he's doing great.
So, I always like to track or look back at family trees and see, 'cause certain people get into certain jobs because their dad, their mom, their grandmother, whatever it was. So in your family tree, were there engineers or restoration people or small business owners?
Engineer. Yep. So my dad was an engineer. He was um so not that old, but he was critical to the uh he was developing, he worked on bombers. He was an engineer on bombers in World War II. So he actually was not in the fighting because he was not allowed to be. It was a wartime critical job. And then he worked on missiles and other assorted things like that. So yeah, so came out of an engineering background.
There you go. And which of the 3 kids has any part of that engineering mindset?
None of them are engineers. They all, you know, they don't. None of them like math enough to do it. But they all, I would say, the lawyer and the one that's in the business with me, they're
Yeah.
very logic, decision tree driven.
Yeah, so they will look at something to figure it out, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. I would imagine on your back porch, you have wonderful family conversations about probably some real serious stuff and probably some of the goofiest things if you look out into your backyard and somebody goes, "Hey, what if we made this?" And then that's probably an hour-long conversation, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and somehow, we've got a concrete, we've got a concrete bunker back there, a half pipe, you know, zip line.
Yep. Why
That
not?
and the zip line nearly killed me. I didn't have anything heavy enough to test it with, so I tested it with myself first run down,
Jeez.
and it was at that point it was about 150 feet long through the trees. It was ugly.
Has it since been rectified so it's not ugly now?
It even has a braking system.
Good for you. Love those stories, man. I love those stories. All right. So in 1989, you enrolled at Cal State Long Beach. What was the plan?
Um, that point, I had already switched. I started off as an art major, and then I went to the dark side, and I really liked math, but that once I took physics, that was it. So yeah, so I really like engineering. Um, yeah, and I remember my physics professor. He was a hoot. He's first day of class. Everybody looked to your left. Everybody looked to your right. Because one of those kids ain't going to be here at the end of the year. He was real proud of his 50% failure rate. I've had some great professors though. One of my favorites. So he worked on the Saturn, the Apollo project. So
Ooh.
he was the engineer on the lift engine. So, and I had all my thermodynamics through him. Um, and I did some advanced graduate work with the guy who was working on satellite outgassing and advanced composites. So yeah, it was a really good place and a good time for me.
So let's go back to your physics professor. Was he correct that at the end of the year only half the room was left?
Oh, absolutely. Yep, that was the first of many weed out classes. Um, oh yeah, and people were happy to get a 50% on the exam, right? Because you could pass with a 50%. I mean, he was brutal.
Now, which class in that engineering world made you think, "Oh, I may not make it through this one"?
Um, I really hated. Um, I never thought that I'm not really going to make it, but I hated programming. Hated it. Um, yeah, yeah. Oh, and they made us take classes that were outside of our major.
Hmm?
Right? I had to take an electrical engineering class. Just hated it. Just hated it. Um, and they would make some civil engineers. They had to take like one mechanical engineering class, and yeah, those guys, yeah, we called them tinker toy engineers. So not too much disrespect intended.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yes. It's like, yeah, no disrespect, and then you hammer the person with the disrespectful line. I think we've all done that. When did you know that you'd had enough of the engineering world and life in California?
So I I'd had a I got a master's in engineering, specializing in microfluidics and thermodynamics. Um, and I was thinking about getting a PhD. But at that point, I was thinking that I was seeing what you could do in corporate at this point, and I thought, you know what? If I got more of a do more stuff on the business side, I might be better off than investing more time in a PhD. So that's when I first started having some entrepreneurial ideas, and that's why I didn't get a PhD. Um, what was your done with California? Oh my gosh. When you go to the park and there'd be gang members there, and you have to tell your kids that hey, we can't go there because there's some people there, and you have to go somewhere else. Um, yeah, things got really bad there. Um, I was in a shooting in California. My friend got shot.
Dang.
Um, oh yeah, it was when I was in college where I lived. The first thing I did is I put plywood over my side kitchen window, um, so you couldn't get in that way, you know, without being seen. And I was pulling the battery out of my truck every night. So so the battery wouldn't get stolen.
I,
Crazy stuff there.
and
Just tough to raise a family somewhere like that cost a small fortune on top of it.
I was gonna say, I just thought it was the high taxes might have been the biggest issue. I didn't had no
Oh
idea you had
my
to pull your
gosh.
battery out.
It's like, but we lost great skiing, great
Yes.
mountain biking, and great volleyball. Yeah.
You are a true outdoorsman, that much I do know.
Yes.
Alright, so we're coming to the no overthinking round.
Uh-oh.
These are not long answers, okay?
Okay.
Snow or no snow?
No.
Okay. Is there too much snow for you?
Here?
Anywhere.
Oh, no. If if I hit the lottery, I'd follow winter around and just be skiing.
There you go. I like that. What is something people assume about your business and they are totally wrong about it?
Um, so they assume that we are shysters on some part of it. So unfortunately, especially on the air duct cleaning side, it's full of shysters who don't do the work, who make a bunch of noise and don't clean more than 4 feet into an air duct. Um, so I have to dispel that myth sometimes.
I like that. Yeah. I believe, yeah, there's some industries just take a, you're so, I feel bad for the people who do it right and they have to pay for sins of others. You know, I,
That's
I'm
that's a
going,
great summary.
I'm going through this in the roofing industry with somebody in a, not your chapter, but another was like, why? We do everything right. And we got, so I feel for you on that. If they make a movie about your life, who would you want to play you?
Oh my gosh.
Or who would Nikki like to be working with on set playing you? How about that?
Oh, I have no idea. Um, I don't know.
All right. What's one word your team would use to describe you as a boss?
Hmm. All right. Oh, I got one for the previous. It's young Mel Gibson.
Okay.
Almost good looking as me.
Almost, yes.
Almost. So how would they describe me?
In one word,
Oh,
how would they describe you?
oh, they would. I would say very. I don't know. Very fair.
Okay.
Um, honest.
All right.
Yeah.
I like it.
I
Y-
got one of the few teams that likes to have their quarterly meetings.
yes. That is rare. That is rare. Make sure you keep doing the stuff you're doing so they keep wanting to have it. So,
That's right.
your email inbox, is it organized or chaos?
Oh, it's chaos. Always has been. All through engineering.
Did you get any help from your wife on that?
Yes, she has.
Oh, good.
She's tried a lot.
Do you prefer the mountains or the ocean?
Oh, son of a gun. Uh,
You're a mountain biker. Let me help you.
I know.
Man.
California mountains, North Carolina ocean.
Ah, good answer. All right. I can live with that. When you have said, now your kids are all older than high school and older.
Correct.
Yeah. Right. So when you've been saying things to your kids over the years, in your head, are you hearing your mother or your father saying that?
Probably my mother.
Do you have a good mom line that you've used before? You're like, oh my gosh.
Nothing that sticks in mind because
Yeah.
I'm such a straightforward parent.
Yeah. Yep. I believe. You're a morning or an evening person?
Evening,
About,
evening for sure.
all right. How about
Yep.
Nicole? How about Nikki?
She's turned into an evening person now.
You
Yeah,
brought her to the dark side, huh?
I did.
Yeah.
I got off work between 10 and 11 at night during
Oof.
college.
Oof.
So then we go out to eat. So that was it. That sealed it.
Okay. I like that. Do you have a favorite? It's Girl Scout cookie season. Do you have a favorite Girl Scout cookie?
Oh, yeah, those Samoans.
I'm
Oh
with you.
man, those are
Yep.
good.
I'm with you, man. Yep. All right. So somebody listening to the show today wants to start a restoration business. What one or two things do they need to have in mind or in place to get into that world?
Hmm. Um, they need to have somebody they trust to do it with them, right? Especially if they can get somebody on the truck side, right? So starting up with not a lot of resources, that's difficult. Um, and then a clear idea of what their market is,
Good.
right? Because there's so many markets to go after: fire, water, emergency only, right? And then know who you're up against.
Would you recommend someone starting out as a one-man gang?
Absolutely, you can, but you need to have another source of income. So you need to be working or have somebody else that's working.
Hmm, got you on that. So one tip, you have educated us well at the beginning of the show here. So when the show is over, people, if they're in their house or when they get home tonight, they're going to look around their house. What's one or two things, if they, I guess any house, older or new, what's one or two things we can kind of start keeping an eye out on?
Oh, when somebody comes into your house, ask them if what it smells like to them,
Oh,
because you'll often get nose blind to your own house and you won't smell an odor in it. And it has to be somebody who's honest.
yep.
And the other thing is look either up or down at the air ducts. If you see dirt around the ceiling around the air ducts, they probably need to be cleaned. And look down and at the register, pull the register off out of your floor and look into it, see what it looks like.
Got you on
Yep.
that. And the other thing I've learned is when you change your air filters, put a date on them. So you can't convince yourself, oh, yeah, just change those. And you look at it, says, November 2024.
Yep. And or put it on the calendar. That
Yep.
way you don't have to open up the outer grill to check.
Yep. And I have that on
Oh,
on my
look at
phone. Yep.
you. You could be an engineer.
No, 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 no. No. I don't even want to do details. I struggle with a detail. So no, I'm not a candidate for engineering. So, all right, folks, we talk about on the show all the time. There are just certain things we need to outsource to experts. And Tom, real quick answer on this. We can't see mold, correct?
Depends,
Okay.
right? It's not a yes or a no.
All right.
There's some mold that's invisible. Mycotoxins are definitely invisible. Um, but you can see mold on sheetrock. You can see it on the floor joists. So when I'm doing a crawl space inspection, it's going to be primarily visual, right?
But in our
Um,
house, if we're just walking around,
you might see it next to air registers. You
okay.
might see it under the sink. You might see it if you got an air register behind a dresser on the backside of the dresser. You'll see a
Oh,
discoloration, and it can be multiple colors,
oh,
right? Could be white, could be gray, could be black. And just if it's a dark color, it does not mean it's black mold. Black mold is reserved for typically Stachybotrys and Cotomium, and they're highly toxic. Um, so, not necessarily, because we know through testing that mold can exhibit the same colony in multiple colors.
okay. Folks, we have been putting Tom's phone number up on the screen. Please, if you have even a thought of something's just not right, please give them a call. He'll chat with you, talk you through that, just to see what it is, and then you guys will act accordingly after that. But call an expert when it comes to air quality because opening the windows just not going to cut it. And Tom, I love the tip. I hadn't thought about this, but auto for your air conditioning unit and not the fan, yeah, or circulation. Love that. So, but again, folks, this is why we pay experts like this. So, Tom, it's been fun having you on the show. Appreciate you being here today.
Hey, thanks much, Mike. I really appreciate it as well.
And we will see everybody next time on Capital to the Coast BNI.
tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com and DeltaForce.net.